So here we are for another concentrated version of Therapists in Conversation. And we have with us two of our members who we haven't seen for a while for various reasons, and I think we can all understand why. One of our ladies, Rachel, has been doing the long haul with the COVID thing. Really, really, truly. So, Rachel and Trudy, let's introduce yourselves, and we'll start with you, Rachel.
Well, I'm Rachel, and my business is House of Feminine, and I work with women who are 40 plus, who are probably menopausal or perimenopausal, and it is really all about making midlife their best life.
Groovy. And Trudy from 5 Elements Retreats.
Hi everyone, I'm Trudy. I am a Reiki Master Teacher and a holistic practitioner, and I not only just offer the one-to-one therapies, but I also offer mini bespoke retreats for small groups.
And she has lovely taste in wall hanging.
Yeah, it's nice.
And then, of course, we have the lovely Angela.
Yeah, so I'm Angela from Inner Pathways, and I'm a health kinesiology practitioner, a hypnotherapist, and a transformational coach.
And then there's me, who's just trouble. But there you go.
Go on, tell everyone what you actually do.
Oh, okay then. I'm a shamanic practitioner, storyteller, speaker, and therapist of different modalities. And I also write a bit occasionally. Oh yeah, and I'm a hypnotherapist too. Look into my eyes. So anyway, what we're talking about tonight is about your heart being in it. Carlos Castaneda once was known to be saying, if you're going to choose a path with heart, for a path without a heart is no path at all. And when I read that first time, I thought, okay. But then I realised as the time went by, I realised it to be quite true. Because we can start off with something that we really think that we're going to like, that we need to do, that perhaps is glinting like a little thing that a magpie would love to have. And we do have magpie-itis sometimes, I know. And it's a case of, we go there and suddenly it's not quite so bright and beautiful as we thought it was going to be, and there's like work involved, or there's change involved. And I think that with clients, perhaps, we do have a lot of that to deal with, in that their expectations of what's going to happen don't often get met the way they think they are. So it's a bit like asking a genie or the fae for a wish. Be careful what you ask for, you might just get it. So I was wondering how it is that we deal with clientele who we understand very quickly their heart's not really in it. And I'm going to start off with Rachel.
I've had this in my capacity as a professional business advisor, and I've had this with a lot of clients, oddly enough, who had to be, because our contract was with the employment service, so they had to go through this process with us. And I have had clients who really didn't want to be self-employed. They wanted to have a job, but they were struggling to find a job, but they were taking a hobby into a business. Sometimes it took them a while to come around to it, but sometimes those clients did and said, actually, I'm glad I followed this through, because I don't think I ever want to work for anybody else again. But I did have one or two, there were very few, but I did have one or two who actually did go back into a job because they realized they felt like failures. But as I said to them, everything you learn about, going on the training to start a business can be taken into a job. So all that sales, all that marketing that you learn can be taken into any job. So nothing is a waste of time. And that made them feel a lot better. But you can tell who they are. So and then in my capacity of the work I do in Divine Feminine, there's 3 aspects to it. Not Divine Feminine, in House of Feminine, there's 3 aspects to it, and one of them is relationships and intimacy. And you get some who are more more involved with the relationship side, but some who are wanting to expand into the intimacy side, because they realize that they need to make changes. And sometimes it's hard for them, and they have to come to terms with the fact that, and especially in relationships, when they have perhaps been blaming the other partner, and yet they start to realize that they are just as invested in the problems as their partner, and that perhaps they could alter something in them to help them through. So, and I've experienced this when I've done jobs, I've taken jobs for the sake of it because it was the right thing to do, and I absolutely hated it, every minute of it. So I've been there personally. And then what I'm doing now, I loved being a business advisor, but that whole industry has collapsed. There is just nothing there anymore. So I had to change what I was going to do, and it was a big change from talking about business and finance to going and talking about some pretty juicy topics on tantra and things of that nature. But actually, I'm exactly where I was always meant to be now, and so my heart and soul is in it.
I think that what you were talking about there as well actually is true for many people who become therapists as a second career or a third career. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things that suddenly we find that the heart's not quite in the job, or there's something that's changed some way that's
Yeah.
just not what it used to be. Or mainly it can be that we're not who we used to be.
Yeah.
And we've grown and stretched and grown out of that last situation. And with the heart not being in it, sometimes we look at things and maybe say, oh, well, I fancy that. For me, it was reflexology. I quite fancied that. And then I realised I didn't really want to touch people's feet that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be a hindrance.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Do it on the hands.
I mean,
I didn't know that.
I have to.
I didn't know that at the time.
I have to
However-
confess, what I'm doing now was actually what my teachers were pushing me towards, the kind of work that actually was more counselling. But at the time I was into my sport and my horses, and that was very important. And I fell into being a business advisor because I am an entrepreneur, and I love finance. I love all of the business stuff. I find it fascinating. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. But I have to say, even with my business clients, they would ask me about relationships and stuff. And I had this constantly with, I can sit down at a networking event or be sitting on a train and sitting next to somebody I don't know, and it gravitates towards the relationships. And so now I know what my teachers were seeing in me, because they were going counsellor, psychologist. And of course, I've studied psychology in every form, sport, business, relationships, general psychology. But now I feel, and everyone around me says, you're actually doing the right job. And it's like, well, you've not known me forever. So that's really interesting that you're saying that, even though I was good at what I did as a business advisor and I loved entrepreneurship, and I still do, but I know that I'm in the right place now. And it's only taken 40 years to come back to that, but there it is. It's always been there in whatever I've done. So now it's
when our radar gets round there, and when we focus on it, and when we actually understand that we had to perhaps go through all of that stuff to be able to get ourselves ready to shift our view, shift our attention.
And maybe because my industry collapsed, the business advising industry collapsed, and it was like, okay, what do I do now? So, and although I continued doing that myself for a while, it started to not be right in me. And it was like, okay, am I doing the right thing here? And that shift, it was interesting how it was perceived by everybody I have known in the networking, and I've done masses and masses of networking in my career. And they all said, it's so you. It's so you. What you're doing now, it's so you.
What about
Keep
you?
doing it because it's needed.
What about you, Trudy?
My heart is in my job because it's my passion. It's what I love. So yeah, every time I get to heal someone or do part of my work, it's just, yeah, I love it. I'm singing because I'm happy. So yeah, if I'm not happy doing my work, then I know there's something in sort of not in alignment with myself. So I will
And
work on myself.
How did you find this path with the heart?
By default. I had a knee injury when I was in my 30s, and I was introduced to Reiki. I'd never heard of it, didn't know what it was, and I found it amazing how I could feel what was going on in my body. It was another 10 years later before I actually trained in it. When we moved, or when we knew we were moving to Wiltshire, and that was when I decided that was the time to follow my heart and train in Reiki and feel therapist. But Reiki's my passion.
Things just start to come into place, into alignment, and you kind of go there. So, Angela.
So for me, I think I'm doing what my heart wants me to do. I do get conflicted occasionally because I do run two very different businesses. And I have those moments of, right, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to focus on the therapy. And then someone books me for the other business. And it's like, I'm sure I was kind of putting that on the back burner, but okay, if the universe or whichever higher being has told me that there's a client there, do I want to book it? Then maybe that's it fuels all aspects of me. So I get my creativity and I get my ability to help people and work with people with what I do from a therapy perspective as well. So yeah, I think on the most part, I am where I need to be and where I should have been for probably a few decades. But as you said, it's the life journey to get here that has probably made me the therapist and the coach that I am.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was doing my training in Glastonbury, standing out on the balcony as my elder was having a sly smoke, and saying to him, "Why did I not know this before? How did I not get here before?" And he actually said to me then, he said, "Because you weren't ready. You had to do all the stuff in life. You had to have all that shit before you actually were ready to let it go. Because up to that point, I'd been a vet nurse. And it was towards the end of my career as a vet nurse, or at least my career in London, that I got a dog, occupational hazard, little puppy comes in one day under this jumper of a nurse I used to work with. And so, of course, you have to take them out. So I had to meet other people, and then I met this woman, and she introduced me to this person who was going to read my tarot cards. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. Even although I do it myself. But, you know, there's always this kind of push me, pull you when there's a little bit of science involved. And she was sitting there, and she kind of pushed this piece of paper in front of me and said, "You should be doing this." She said, "Actually, you are doing it. You just don't know what it is yet." "What is it?" "Reiki." "What's that?" And then there was a little bit of a, eh? How does that work? You know? So yeah, and it kind of ran parallel and actually became part of my work for a while. I did actually get caught giving Reiki to a cat by one of the vet surgeons one morning when she came in after because I used to do night shift, I used to do emergency work. And we had to have a little conversation. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Just having a word with the cat." No, what are you doing? And I had to tell her. And she said, "Oh, that's why." And I was like, what do you mean that's why? What's going on? She said, "Well, when you're on, I've noticed that the animals I think are going to die are still there in the morning when I get there. Most of the time." I was like, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "And you do this every time you're on, don't you?" I said, "Well, yeah. It's a long night sometimes." So, yeah, so it was more or less a case of getting that connection with the animals first. But oh my goodness, my heart was certainly not in doing it with the people yet. That came a lot later. So that and of course the universe decided to send me a 6-stone rottweiler to make the point. And he gave me a nice injury, so I didn't do my job anymore. But this is the way things happen, and it came to a point where I understood that what I was learning from then on was really stoking up the furnace in my heart. I was really...
So do you think that Rottweiler was sent to you, however you want to see that, because you weren't listening to your heart?
Oh, definitely. Well, no, it wasn't that I wasn't listening to my heart. I wasn't listening to spirit because I was too involved in, hang on a minute, I've got a mortgage to pay for, I've got car payments I have to look after, I have to get back and forward to my, how am I supposed to do this and not make any money? Because that's what we all have to look at, really. We have that as the basis, like every other human being. We have to pay bills because Tesco doesn't do barter. I've tried. Doesn't work. Even in Glastonbury, the Tesco in Glastonbury, not a chance. And,
I love the fact that you even tried.
Oh, you know me, I'm a trier. I'll try anything. Basically, if it's a case of we do something or I can't even remember what it was. I think it was dog food. Because, for myself I wouldn't bother, but I think it was dog food. And I went through to them and I said, "Can I speak to your manager, please? I'd like to buy some dog food, but I can't really pay for it at the moment. Would you accept some Reiki instead?" But the thing is, in Glastonbury, all you have to do is turn round and you've bumped into 4 shaman, a Reiki master, a couple of angels, and a goddess or two.
Yeah.
Because it's packed chock full of them. But yeah, so we have...
it's a place I've never been.
Have you
No,
not?
me either. Me neither.
You have to
Actually,
visit.
no, I tell a lie. I have been once, many years. I was still at school.
The interesting thing is everybody thinks that Glastonbury is where the festival is. The festival's not in Glastonbury itself.
Mm-hmm.
The festival is a few miles outside in Pilton. So, but I could sit, when I was living in Evercreech, I could sit on my back step and hear the bands. It was that loud. When I was in Shepton Mallet. So,
Sorry, Tea in the Park used to be like that in Hamilton.
yeah. But it's one of those things that Glastonbury is known for its heart. It's known for it being its heart centre. And shamanism is the path of the heart because you have to look through your heart to do it. Which was a whole big thing because my heart wasn't in that for a long time because people were scary.
And interestingly, we flipped the question here because you started off asking about our clients and their hearts not being in it.
Yeah.
And we've ended up answering around our hearts being in what we offer and deliver.
But then isn't it always the case, if our hearts aren't in it, then we might be mirroring what's happening with our clients, or our clients will mirror what's happening with us.
Potentially. But I'm going to take it from a point of you're telling us, Leslie, that your heart is in it and it is definitely there. What examples have you got of when your clients came to you and their heart wasn't really in it?
Oh, as soon as I can think of one right off the bat, and it was a case of they came in and they had an issue, and it was something that they were going to have to do a little bit of work themselves about. And as soon as I mentioned the fact that I wasn't going to do it for them, that basically they were going to be given things to do, there was a complete retraction of any form of going there. It's like, aren't you going to do it for me? I can't do this. Why would I do this? Why did I come to you if I have to do this? I said, well, you came to me because basically you wouldn't know what to do until you came to me. But I can't do the work for you because I've got my own work to do. Same as everybody else has their work to do. But we're sort of guiding and allowing you and informing you and giving you the tools and resources to work with spirit with direct revelation. So it's up to you to get yourself ready, do the thing the right way, listen to what we're being told, and then act on it. And it's not that difficult, really. I mean, when you're hungry, you have to get up and make a cup of tea and make yourself a slice of bread and maybe cook an egg or something. Oh, hang on a minute, no. Your mother does that for you, doesn't she? Oh dear. That was the kind of thing.
Which is great fun, isn't it? So what did you end up doing with that client then? Were you able to get them into a position where their heart was in it? Or were you able to then instead signpost them somewhere else? Or...
I actually signposted them somewhere else. I sent them to their doctor. I said, if you want a pill to cure the ill, that's the guy you go to. However, when you do want to do the work, you know where I am.
Yeah. And sometimes that's a hard decision to make, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also, I know myself, and I know that you guys know, that there are people who will come to us because their friends went and they had this great experience and it was really good for them and it was wonderful, so they go too and they haven't got a blooming clue what they're going for because their friend hasn't actually told them what happened. And then they see this and they suddenly realise they don't like the idea, or there's something about it that's a little bit hinky, or it's just not their cup of tea. So we have to be able to understand that and to recognise it, because when it comes to therapy, it's really horses for courses. And it may well be that my shamanic practice is not for them, but somebody else's shamanic practice might be. Celtic might go better than Siberian, and Siberian can be a little bit, or Nepalese could be the way to go. Therefore, I would be able to put them somewhere else. Or it could be that I would recognise that what I'm doing is actually something that Angela would be better doing for health kinesiology. Or Trudy, because you're a master Reiki person, you're doing it all the time. Or if they're of a certain age and gender, then Rachel, I would possibly send them to you. If that's where the kernel of the thing is coming from. And I think that's what is important about what we're doing just now, is that we're showing that we collaborate and we refer with other therapists, and we don't judge that, oh well, they're not going to like that, so but it's also good to give the client a choice. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not a case of, well, your heart's not in it because you don't want to work with me. No, my heart's in it. I don't want that you have a bad experience or an experience that's less than, because you actually don't like to be here, you're not comfortable, you're not in flow with the idea. And as we know, being energetic workers, you have to be in flow and aligned in order to change things that's not going to hurt. So Trudy, what about you? Because Reiki's it's a less invasive, less kind of in your face thing than shamanic healing is, for a start. How do you recognise when people's heart's really not there?
I think it's like you said earlier, sort of the people that come because they've heard about it, or they're curious, or their friends have tried it and they want to try it. And you can normally tell when someone they're curious, they come along and they try it, and you say, if you've got any questions, do you want to ask anything? And they either say yes or no, and you just talk through what you're going to do, and there's just nothing there. You can just feel that they're just like, this is just a waste of time, I'm just sat on this couch and I'm just waiting for it to finish, and yeah, they're kind of there but not there. And it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it, their heart isn't in it, therefore they're not going to feel the same things that they would have done if their heart was in it. So I would often, I'll try it and I'll explain what I'm doing, and I always say to the client, if they're not comfortable or they want to stop, just tell me. And at the end of the session, I'll tell them what I felt and ask them what they felt, and I will, if their heart really isn't it, because Reiki might not be for them. I'll often say to them, well, have you tried, hypnotherapy or reflexology or a massage or whatever it might be that I feel is right for them? Then I would obviously recommend somebody else for them to experience it.
The thing I like is the thing that the delayed action one, where they come and they've got absolutely nothing. No, this is working. don't even go there, this is wasted time. And then about a week later or 3 weeks later or something, not always from them, but from someone who knows them, maybe a mutual person or the person who referred them to you in the first place, will say, do you know, this happened, that happened, and they told me that they had this thing going on, and they've absolutely changed everything, but they're just so embarrassed to actually say, or they don't want to believe that actually what you did had something to do with it. And that's the kind of trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's down to timing as well, because I had one person come and try Reiki just out of curiosity because they'd heard about it, wanted to try it, felt absolutely nothing, said it's not for them. They're very much into hands-on and massage and that sort of thing, and not into, the woo-woo side of things, should we say. And a year later, they came back and asked me to train them.
It's amazing though, sometimes it's that little push, isn't it? It's the and understanding as well also that maybe you're on the wrong path, and understanding that and taking the brave step to step off and either go back a little bit to go to another way, or just take a branch off.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, Rachel, you really branched off.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I always do a 60-minute conversation, have conversations with people before they come to me, because on the relationships and intimacy, we go deep on everything, but the intimacy side is a huge part of it. And if they've had sexual trauma, for instance, I need to find out whether they have, because I can't deal with that. That's not my bag. But I have a lot of people around me. Being down here on the South Coast, it is there's zillion therapists of different descriptions. So I could send somebody off if they've had that kind of trauma, but they want to come through what I offer. They need to sort that out first, because I can't sort that out. And some things that I cover may trigger them and may be really quite damaging to them. So that's why I have that kind of call. But I put in all of my stuff. It's one of the reasons why I do that first call with them, is to find out whether we want to work with them, because I might not want to work with them.
Yeah, that is.
I might find that they don't gel with me for whatever reason, or I'm getting the wrong vibe. And you can even get it through a phone call. And and it's really funny actually, because somebody contacted me the other day, a guy contacted me. He'd seen stuff that I'd written on LinkedIn, because I write a lot of articles and stuff. And I mean, this goes back over a year, because I haven't really done much this last year. But he Googled something about Tantra, and I came up and I said, I'm not a Tantra. I am a Tantrika, and I've studied it, but I don't practice it and I don't teach it. And I sent him to one of my friends who is a practitioner, and she does a lot of couples work, and that's what he wanted. And we had a really long conversation. He said, please go and train in this, because I would love to work with you on this. And I said, it's something I want to train in, but I don't want to actually teach it that way. It's just part of what I do. So, I mean, again, that was really, really interesting. But, this is why I do have conversations with people before they come with me, to find out exactly what they're wanting and what they are expecting. And I want to manage their expectations, obviously.
Yeah, managing the expectations is a good one. It's an interesting ride. It's like riding a tiger sometimes. But it's one of those things also, that knowing the difference between someone's heart's not in it and someone's heart who's in, pardon the pun, lockdown.
Yeah.
Because of sexual harassment, sexual problems, and assaults, etc. Or just the fact that they're so fragile that they've been broken-hearted. And it's understanding that I know that many of us will have been sitting there while the floodgates have opened, and basically sat there and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to drown here, because this person has got like a lifetime's worth of pain coming out of them. And understanding then that their heart wasn't in it because they were afraid in the first place. to have that happen.
Mm.
Because particularly in this country, we don't tend to be very free with our emotions unless it's anger.
I mean, I must confess, with the work I do and the clients I've had, the emotion that comes out is relief and excitement of the fact that they have been holding something inside them that they felt there was so much more. I mean, that is basically what I'm saying. Women who
Yeah.
want more, because there are many different practices out there available to them, and most women want more sex. They just don't want the sex that's on the menu.
Oh well, yes.
You know, and oddly enough, it's women who talk more about sex than men, because I work with men as well, and it's
Well, it's
women who
always
talk about sex.
it's always good to talk about something you're not getting a lot of.
I was going to say, there's
And
a
of
menu.
course,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, there is a menu. Oh yeah, there is a menu. Oh yeah, yeah. And men even say this. I work with men and male practitioners and male therapists, and it's very much a thing that for men it's very straightforward, but for women they need a lot. We are more our bodies are more complicated.
Oh yeah.
We need a lot more stimulation. We need longer time to get to where we want to be in the whole process. We need the cuddling and the snuggling and all of that kind of stuff. We need the ambience, the atmosphere. Whereas a man can just drop his trousers and be done.
Yeah.
Basically.
What was it like?
Women aren't like that.
There was something on television, and I can't remember what it was, but it's a brilliant line, and it's something about women and sex and men and the difference. And I think the guy said, women need a place to have sex. Women need a reason to have sex. Men just need a place.
Yeah. Well, as we say, men just need to come up and it's just oxygen for them. They just need to show up and breathe. And that's basically it. Women need a whole lot of other stuff around. It's a big thing for women. And yeah, there are times when it's like, oh, just get on with it. But more often than not, it's
When the heart's not
like
in it.
that. And because our bodies change throughout, perimenopause, menopause, if you've had any surgery of any sort,
Yeah.
or any serious illness, things work differently.
Yeah, and there's the identification as well of particularly, and what I was talking about earlier on was not that they once they've come to you, they've already opened. They're ready to open. They've got that there. But occasionally you will have somebody in your place where they don't know it's going to happen. Suddenly it happens, and the dam just bursts, and the whole thing is going. But when it comes to sometimes when it comes to the surgery, particularly hysterectomies, etc., and perhaps when it comes to men, testicular cancer, when they've had to have the testicle removed, then there's an identification thing that goes on.
Of course there
Whereas,
is.
in breast cancer particularly as well, the removal of the tissue and the physical removal of things actually send such a deep shard through their heart and soul that they don't feel that they have any heart at all, any feeling, any love, any emotion, for any passion, because they can't, because it's just been removed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's,
that's kind of going off on a real big tangent there, but it's also something that for us as therapists, we can help them to find that and bring it back and allow them to understand that, okay, something physical has gone. However, what makes them them is still there.
Exactly.
What makes them lovable, what makes them a human being is still there. And that's an energetic thing too. And we would all probably approach that quite differently, but with the same effect in mind. And that's bringing things back together again and helping them rebalance. And I think that's a lot of the time when people their heart's not in it, they're coming to you and it's sort of, well, I need to do something, but I don't know what it is I need to do, so I just thought I'd come to you and see if anything happened. But actually, their higher self, their idea of who they are in the universe, etc., is saying, not yet, you're not there yet, but this is where we put you two together, because this is where you're going to get the idea that there's something that can be done. And this is where one of us might say, well, yeah, you've started now, you have to go and see this person to finish that off. But in saying that also, that gap between the two, they can lose themselves in also. When we refer, occasionally, people will think about it and then they'll go, no, maybe I don't want to go there.
They're not ready.
They're not ready. And I think that's, for me, an instance where some people would see that as a failure. That it's actually a convincer for some people. Wow, I told you that would never work. Just, as you said earlier, woohoo stuff. For me, I usually call it hippy dippy shit. But, well, yeah, why not? It's hippie, it's dippy, it's great.
I prefer hocus pocus.
Oh, but that's an actual, that's magic you're talking there now. That's going
Yeah,
into a whole different
how's that any different from woo woo or voodoo or whatever else? These things actually exist.
Because
don't they?
hocus pocus is a spell.
Yeah.
I know, but it sounds nicer than voodoo.
Yeah, and Bette Midler did a good job.
I'll just stick to woo woo.
Actually, voodoo is a love thing. It's a love thing. It's got
love thing.
It's got a whole thing to do with the heart, with the emotions, with it, and that's where it comes from, the passion, the dancing, and the whole getting yourself into dancing. It's a whole kind of releasing all these endorphins, getting everything out there, and just losing your inhibitions and getting in there. And I will admit that I do know how to make a fetish doll. And I actually gave one to a doctor once at work when he was leaving.
Is this my cue to rein you back in and get you back onto the topic?
Quite possibly. I'm waiting for you.
There was me thinking, I'll just ask how that went.
Yeah, that's a different story entirely.
Maybe that should be in the blooper reel.
Do we have one of them?
We might need one now.
We possibly will. We possibly will. You see, this is it. You guys need to come on here. We're having fun.
So I found that it's not necessarily the heart's not in it. I think for some of my clients, they believe that their heart's in it, but they're not actually ready or prepared to change. Because there's something that actually is serving them about what is going on for them right now.
Yeah.
Even though it's not necessarily the healthiest place for them to be. That's sometimes my bigger challenge. And again, with you saying, I think it was comment about a week later they start to see that change. I've had clients come back for their second sessions and say to me, nothing's changed, nothing's happened. And we go through the kind of 3 or 4 lines I've scribbled at the start of the last session. Say, so how's this? And what about the pain there? And what about this? And the comment I get is, did I say that? You don't remember that? I was angry. What was I angry about? And it's these comments of, once it's gone and it's in the past and it's dealt with, it's completely out of their awareness. So it's almost that, do you realise actually the amount of work that you've done between the last session and now without even noticing it, and all the stuff that's actually improved? And that sometimes jolts them into that, okay, I can see a benefit here. But at the same time, there's still that little bit of reluctance to actually change, because there's something about the status quo that's serving them.
Yeah, the familiarity zone is sticking it. But what you said there was interesting, and it could be a whole other subject for next month. But it's the letting it go. It's they weren't aware it was happening because it's in the past now. If we can do that with one small thing, with one issue that why can't they open that up and do it with everything, and just allow.
Is that where I then bring my doll in? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a trademark. We better not mention her.
Possibly, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's a whole big thing about what a heart is, what it's supposed to do, and it's a working organ. Let's face it. But it shows particularly well as one of the best examples of mind, body, and spirit. Because we have a physical heart, but we also have a spiritual heart, and we have a soul heart. And this is where we get the ideas, and we don't even realise we're getting them. So there's a hole in my heart because I'm missing you, which is like, but it's, the hallmark moment kind of thing. A little bit too sickly sweet sometimes, but we're actually.
I'm wondering if there's some work that we can do with you there, Leslie.
No, my heart's completely fine. Thank you. It's completely fine where it is. I'm Scottish, come on. And not only Scottish, it seems that I'm Glaswegian.
Alright, okay.
Get it now? So yeah, my heart opens when it comes to 4 legs and fur. Or feathers. With 2 legs. But it's one of those things that my heart did get opened, and it was opened and it was like surgery, so it was closed up again for a while. But I see through it. I fight with it. And when I say I fight with it, it's not so much, going up and belting somebody on the back of the head with something. It's actually,
even if that's what you really want to do.
Even if that's what I've already done.
I'm hoping not with your clients.
Not always.
Do they pay it? No, I'm not going to go there.
I was waiting to see if you were going to go there. It depends on what they actually want to happen. But, there are some things that happen shamanically where you do have to give somebody a belt.
I'm guessing metaphorically.
Ish, but you're usually doing when you're doing body work, there are some things when you have to actually physically make contact.
I'm really glad I work with you on Zoom.
Yeah,
I'm sensing bruising, concussion.
I think I felt like I want to slap somebody, but I don't think I ever have. No.
Yeah, it's only ever happened to me twice, I think, and once was during an initiation. But it's more symbolic than anything else. It's not like,
I'm going to symbolically thump you.
It's symbolically getting things out of the system, opening up new ways of being.
That's much better. I'm slightly happier now.
I thought you might be.
Just drum it out the body.
With an actual drum and not them being the...
Yeah.
Or them being the drum.
No.
No? No? Not at all? You do know that there's a death of dominatrix in Glasgow? I've never figured that one out, because every single woman I know is capable.
So note to anyone watching, if you want to work with Leslie, Zoom's a great way of doing it.
Yeah, I'll just go and get you to hit yourself.
Love it.
Right, I think we need to rein back in again then, don't we?
Whoa, those horses have gone.
Don't get me started here.
But you see, I know I'm skirting along the edges here.
This episode might need to have a parental guidance warning.
Well, it's already, when we put it on YouTube, it already says it's not made for children.
Yeah.
The fact that I run workshops with one of my closest friends who has the most sumptuous erotic boutique down here, but Brighton is known for this kind of stuff, so it's just de rigueur, it's on the street, it's there, you know, so it's one of those things, and I'm quite happy walking around town with my bags from her shop.
We just shut the curtains and let the Ann Summers agents in the back.
Oh, forget the Ann Summers. It's not like that. This is next level.
Oh, I know, but there's levels. There's definitely levels.
There's definitely levels, yes.
But it depends, you know, to tell you the truth, it's got to do with having your heart in it as well. If there's something that you need and you're not getting it from somewhere else, find someone whose heart's in it and let them do it for you.
Yeah.
To find the way that your heart is, where your heart is, you have to really explore. You have to understand what's going on. Sometimes it is sort of the big, this is your passion, stick on the back of the head that the universe hits you with and says, this is where you're going now. And it can be very, very scary. Absolutely, totally scary.
It is if you're on the end of that stick.
Yeah.
I have my stick in the corner. Do you want to see it?
No.
Or whips. Or whips.
I might need counselling after this session, so if anyone wants to signpost to me.
Oh, dear.
No, it's just, you know, it's one of those things that I can joke about it because it's more or less a case of when it comes down to it, it sometimes is like being hit by something really hard. And I've been hit by a couple of cars, so I know kind of where that's going. One of them was actually going at the time, and it's one of those things that when we hurt emotionally, we're actually manifesting pain that we could have physically. We manifest signs and symptoms of pain when our heart is breaking, when we're upset, when we're sad. Our breathing changes, there's interesting things coming from our noses, they're in our eyes, there's, you know, you can't hear anything and you can't breathe and you can't speak in some cases when it's so bad. And that pain, that painful thing can last a lot longer than the physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves a residue. And I think that that's where sometimes it's the case of why their heart's not in it, or sometimes even our heart's not in it. We can see what's going on, and somebody else can usually see what the other person's going through better than the person themselves, particularly in the beginning. There are signs of this going to happen, and it's like, you know, waiting for an accident to happen, the shoe to drop. But when we understand that that pain is there for a reason, that we have to get through that, it's like an initiatory path. Once you've gone through that, you don't feel it again. Not the same way. But it's like you said, Angela, it can be in the past. And, you know, from talking to my mother about childbirth and asking her, did it hurt? And she said, oh, you forget about the pain. And I was totally, are you kidding me? How do you forget that? Well, you know, if you didn't forget it, everybody would be an only child. Although there are some people who don't have that much of a problem with it, I'm told. But it's one of those things that there is physical pain and then there's heartache.
And I think my point whenever I'm talking to anyone and talking to networking groups and everything else is I would much rather someone, when they get to that, things don't feel right, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, that's when they reach out and find one of us, not when they're flat on their back with aches and pains and the physical ailments.
Yeah.
Because that just takes a lot more time to unwind and unpick and get back to being where you want to be.
Yeah, and sometimes they identify with those aches and pains. sometimes.
So if we can get them before the aches and
Yeah,
pains, then
yeah.
they never have to experience it, right?
Yeah. And it's one of those things, though, we do tend to hang on to things and just keep going because, you know, it'll go away. I'll feel better tomorrow. It'll go away. And then it doesn't.
And that's what then creates the physical manifestations. If we've not dealt with what's going on emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, whatever, then it does manifest itself out as a physical ailment that then you can't ignore.
But then don't you agree that unfortunately a lot of people are not self-aware? I mean, we're all therapists, so we're self-aware. I'm very much body aware because I've been in sport most of my life, and I am a very physical, passionate woman who has a high libido even now at nearly 60. So I dance, you know, I dance salsa, which is a very sensual dance. So I am very body aware. And it's interesting that I had this conversation with somebody the other day, because we were talking about, I said, even knowing I'm in menopause, but I still know where I am in my cycle, because I know what different weeks, according to what's part of your cycle you're in. I know I'm different every one of those weeks. And so those of us who are therapists are more aware of our space, of who we are in the world, of our own physicality, whereas a lot of people that come to us are not what I call in their bodies at all.
And that's why we're doing these conversations.
Yeah.
So that's
and they don't understand it. And I had one lady come on the relationship side, and she was heading for divorce. She wanted the divorce, and she was very masculine in everything, in the way she dressed, in the way, you know, she was a runner, it was just everything. And it hit me straight away. And, you know, it was, why were you drawn to me? Because I'm the absolute opposite of that. I'm very, very much in my feminine. Yes, I have that masculine side, and I have to have that for business and things. But she was drawn to me in a way that I could see why, but it took her a while to see it. And after a while, she said, I actually do feel more embodied. She said, I didn't understand that before, but she thought she did. But when we started actually doing the work, and there was the intimacy that came inside of that, and she said, I feel I'm more embodied, and I can see where this is going. So I think that is a lot of it. Maybe it's not that their heart isn't in it, it's they're not embodied.
Yeah.
So they can't show their heart in some ways because they're not embodied.
Yeah, there's some disconnect somewhere.
There is a disconnect, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all joking aside, it's basically the case of when we are inside ourselves and totally aware, there's so many different things that we can be immune to. When we are disembodied and we're not taking care of the machine, the physical part, there are so many ways that machine can break down, and suddenly we wake up one day and we're in our bodies and we're in pain and racked in agony and not understanding what happened. You know, because one minute we were just there and the next minute and then they just leave again. You just jump back out again. And it's just, that's this way of just walking like a zombie, being a zombie, and not understanding, trying to find a way to get back into your body again, but actually not understanding how you got out of it in the first place.
That going through the motion stage, isn't it?
Yeah. And people will say, but, you know, what are you talking about? What do you mean? And it's a case of, when we go to sleep at night, we leave, part of our mind leaves and goes into a state of being in the dream world. But there are some people who will dream so lucidly that if they have an accident or something happens in the dream, they'll wake up with a bruise.
Wow.
And or feeling that pain, or understanding that and still being in that situation, because they're actually bringing that back from the dream into the muscle memory of the body. So when it's separating, that can be an interesting thing to do.
I'm just going to get some light because I'm getting really dark here.
Yeah.
So.
The sun sets and that's it. But it's true, we have to. Disembodiment is more common than we would believe. And just because the NHS doesn't tell you that's what's happening doesn't mean that that's not what's happening. There science and medicine only takes it so far. And they'll even tell you that there are certain things that pills will not deal with. Some medicines are just basically a placebo to deal with the symptoms, but not the root cause of the issue. Trying to find the root cause of the issue, particularly when it's a case of disembodiment, not feeling that things are right, feeling displaced in life, not knowing where you are, why you're there, or what your purpose is. And
it's that point that Rachel mentioned earlier, that people don't understand how to even broach that as a topic of conversation.
Exactly.
To go into a doctor's surgery and talk about being out of their bodies probably wouldn't be a conversation any of us would have, let alone anyone who's not a therapist.
Well, yeah. It's one of those things that if you said that to a doctor, there would possibly be two answers. Have you seen a psychiatrist lately? Would you like to? And the other one would be, take these tablets and come back in 3 weeks.
I'm lucky with where I live because it is very much an alternative community, and the doctor's surgery that I belong to is very, very hot on therapists of different and Eastern medicine and stuff, and they know that I use essential oils and I take other stuff. I mean, I have had to have an inhaler for this cough, which I only use when I absolutely have to because it's vile. But I understand, being a sporty person and having done sports injuries and understanding all of that, I understand that you need to take maybe painkillers whilst you're healing, but that's only so that you can go through the motions of healing your body. And oddly enough, being in this Facebook long COVID group that I'm in, the amount of people that just want to pop pills, and I'm writing in there about what I'm doing and the alternative stuff, and I don't get many comments, and it's like, no, so many of these people are just after popping pills and making it all go away, and it's like, well, that's not going to get it out of your system at all. And I mean, I'm floating my own boat here a little bit, because my doctor actually said to me, I wish all my patients were like you, because I said, I know that swimming is one of the best things for me with this and the best ways for it. And I've learned how to do it. But most people don't understand that in any case. So they want the quickest path.
Yeah, I mean,
the easiest path to get to where they want to be.
Going into the doctors is not something that I would say not to do.
No.
That's, basically we need them. There are things
absolutely
that they are absolutely fantastic with, and for a first port of call, then yes. But if you're someone who is on antidepressants for years, the same ones, and they just don't know what to do with you, then there's something perhaps that we can see elsewhere. Use different ways of looking at it. And I know that there's a few doctors here that are prescribing almost like tree baths, tree bathing, going into going for walks in the woods and actually
Yeah.
connecting to nature. And the the abuse that they get for that is amazing, because people don't expect, when they go into the doctor, they don't expect to be told that that's fine, don't worry about it. Why don't you go and take a nice walk in the country? Why don't you go and sit in the sun under a tree and just relax? They want a pill because it masks. It takes
Exactly.
away the length of the duration of the efficacy of the pill.
I think when people start coming to therapists is when they're not getting the results from the Western medicine that they want.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know, the women who, I mean, a lot of the women who come to me are women who are in menopause and they're not getting the help they need. Thankfully, things are opening up now. I mean, one of my closest friends is actually, she's going this way. Her business, she's a personal trainer, and she's taking it towards the menopause, and she's gone to Parliament with it, and she's having discussions with Parliament. And this is brilliant because it's now filtering through to employers that women have these issues, and we're not being difficult, but we have these issues and we have to learn. I mean, some people sail through menopause. I haven't had that many problems, and other women are besieged with problems that, you know, I just find it so sad that they've got all these issues, but they are not getting the results through the GPs the way they would like. Some are happy with like HRT, but some are, okay, I'll have HRT, but I want something else as well. And that's how I'm getting more clients, women who are in this stage of life. They may or may not have an autoimmune illness or disease like I have. So, you know, it's a very interesting time, I think, that we're in right now. And maybe with what has gone on with this pandemic, we will see a need for a lot more therapists.
Yeah,
and
but
people
also
will search that out.
There's a timing thing as well, because when you go to the doctors, you get 5 minutes if you're lucky.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And you know, I remember
I had 25 minutes last month.
Oh well, get you.
Wow.
How that
I had 10, I think, the last time I was there, or less than 10, just slightly less
before
than
all
10,
this started, I went in
but yeah.
to doctors, and it was a locum doctor, and before I opened my mouth, he turned around and said, I've only got 5 minutes, I can only give you 5 minutes. And he spent 2 minutes of my 5 minutes telling me what I couldn't do. That I could only discuss one problem, that he couldn't see me for anything else, that he was a locum, and basically, you know,
they can only deal with one issue.
Yeah.
So if you've got
fine,
two,
but don't take up 2 minutes telling me that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, apart from anything else, I was quite happy to turn around and say, okay, this is this, that's that, that's happening here, and that's happening there. Now it's your turn. What are you going to do? Because, you know, I don't waste time in the doctor, so I don't like it. But it's one of those things that, with us, I think that particularly what is needing to happen again is the conversation. It's the connection, the communication between doctor and patient, between therapist and client, that is the actual balm that puts everything into perspective and allows people to start healing from the inside out.
Giving people time.
Yeah, and it's being listened to, it's being heard. I don't know how many times I've been in and with people in the doctors, and they're not being heard. They pick up one or two words, and even the receptionists, they pick up one or two words, and as soon as those one or two buzzword goes in, that's it. That's what you're going to see, that's what you're going to get, that's what they're going to focus on. And yet, there are so many doctors out there who, given the chance and given the time, will be able to sit you down and talk to you and actually find out where the heart of the problem is. And I think
that you nicely wrapping up there, Leslie.
Yes. I'm quite good at that occasionally. Once I see what time it is. I have a wonderful universal mind that tells me, Leslie, wait, wrap it up. So with a lot of heart, and thank you from my heart to yours, thank you for coming and
Thank you.
having a interesting conversation that kind of went in an interesting place again.
It would be boring if it stayed on the same track, right?
Oh, but you know what? That's what you get with us. Controversy, a little bit of tangentialism, and whatever that is.
That's easy for you to say.
It wasn't, but there you go.
That was my point.
I don't even tell you what I said to Andrew earlier on today about chicken stock cubes. Whether or not.
On that note,
Yes.
wrap it up, Leslie.
Yeah.
So, let's go and dance to the beat of another drum, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.